Hi, I'd like to talk about a special topic today. I started the day teaching about sticks and its redirection. Now I'm going to take it a bit step further and talk about knives. Since I'm in Oman, I can't really hold physical knives out in public. It's actually against the rules. So I'm using something that a friend of mine made once out of the, he made it out of a drum of gasoline, and he just cut it out to shape like a blade, and we wrapped it up with Mueller tape just to indicate the handle. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to use the knife using these structures here, since they pretty much work the same way a knife works, where that's the edge is right there, and that's the flat of the blade, and then that works as the handle and the points. So let's first talk about, you can say, recapping what we did with the stick. What we did with the stick was we found out that it can move in certain ways. Same thing can apply to the knife. The only difference would have to be pure proximity. As we know, a stick can reach the length of there to there. So that's a pretty long, you can say, a long distance to cover really short by just standing where I am. With a knife, however, I'd have to extend my whole body out just to get that kind of distance. So you have to understand, you only pull out the knife, you only use the knife when you're in close proximity, about this close, something like this. So if I'm in this proximity where I don't need to stretch my hand out too much just to get you with the knife, then I'm in the correct proximity. If I'm standing this far and I have to swipe this far to get you with a knife, no matter what trick I'm using, it just means that I'm setting myself up for failure, because I have to stay so far away. And you have to remember, a lot of my system works on psychology. So if I'm doing this, I'm staying far away, I am giving you the notion that I don't want you to come in near my body. That's why I'm keeping my body away, but keeping my blades forward. So same thing, the same way I fight with the sticks. I keep the blade on my body while I'm standing straight forward. Why? Because honestly, this is the position that you get attacked in. You don't get attacked in this position. Okay, you never get attacked in this position. You get attacked while you're standing straight up and you're just minding your own business, and somebody comes in and attack you. Then that's when you're disarmed and everything's going to be happening from that standpoint while you're standing up. So you don't fight this way. Come on, let's be honest. If I do this in front of you, you'd know already that I know something and we're going to be fighting, and I'm keeping my distance from you, or I know to grapple, or whatever, right? But if I'm fighting you from this position, it means that I don't know anything and I'm being attacked at the moment. And that's exactly what I want my enemy to think, that he's getting what he wants. Because an enemy with a knife, let's go first with the basic approaches of a knife. People who attack with a knife, they usually pull it out from the back, from the side, or from their pocket, or some just had it in their hand and they just kind of concealed it behind their forearm, and they just go in like this, and then they just kind of pull you in, step right in, pull it up, and just shove that blade into you, and this is called a shiv. Some are a lot more trained, and what they do is they take out the knife like this, and then they hold you and they just go this way, and it goes into the throat or in the chest. And usually in knife attacks, it's so violent, it's repetitive striking, which is, I believe, why Krav Maga had to also develop a similar understanding of striking back in the same manner. But what we're going to do today is kind of veer away from the thinking process of the primal mind, and we're going to go into a higher process where we're going to utilize our biomechanics and our functional fighting system to good use. So if we have to understand again the types of strikes. So we do know the cardinal points. Somebody slashes you this way, diagonally, he does that, and of course stabbing from every position you can think of. But the most dangerous way that a person stabs is from the rear grip, and everybody knows that this is how you would even hold the knife. If you were scared, you just hold it like this, and then you just stab away. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something. It's not magic or anything, but it's the way that trained fighters hold their weapons and hold the blades in order to manipulate it properly. So if you're holding it tight, where your knuckles are tight grip, you're a beginner, and that's usually what real knife fighters want. Now take a look at my hand. Do you notice that my blade can go on the outside? See? My thumb can go on the outside, so the blade. So it can be here, but I don't want it to be there, I want it to be here. And if you notice, even if I'm holding it this way, I can easily switch it up. It's just a flexion of my fingers. So when I flex it out, I can have it on the thumb hanging, and I can switch it up. Real blade fighters usually like to have their pointer finger. You find this in many martial arts. You find it in Filipino Kali, you find it in Silat. You even find it in Indian martial arts like Gatka and so on. They like to use their pointer finger as a point measure. It's not something for any functional purpose except to get the finger out of the way. Because see, when it's that way, it's pretty tight. You want it to be pretty loose. So it's loose and it can swing around, it can swim in that space right there. And two, you want to be able to push the blade forward by the thumb while holding everything in place. You want to be able to pull the blade back and get your thumb out of the way. You want to be able to put your thumb in and flick the blade out. See, so I'm flicking the blade and I can hide it underneath my forearm and it becomes a reverse grip. I can do other tricks where I can have a pen holder style where I'm holding it like a pen. Then I can just simply switch it. See, so I can just switch that blade and it keeps going around in circles. Another thing you need to know, aside from the grip of the blade and training you on the grip of the blade, is the position of where your elbow is in accordance to your body. If your hand is this far, then that's already openings for all types of cuts to come in from the opening. But if your hand is close by and you're slashing this way, you only have this much to deal with. But the best part is you have a hand that can get out the way and push things away from you while you dive in. So it's kind of like you're trying to dive your blade in to get positions. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu with a sword or a knife. So a person's trying to stab me this way, I can simply block him this way and cut that way, or I can simply block him this way and come right in, and I can just put that blade into his body or into his head or into his armpit. Now, this is something you don't know. One of the most dangerous things a person can do is half Nelson you and put that blade through the armpit. Because if the blade goes through the armpit, you gotta remember there's no muscle there. It has a clear path to either your lungs or your heart. So if somebody half Nelsons you and he has the knife and he's gonna dive it in, do your best to get out of that position, because that's a kill position. Another kill position that you're very familiar with is, of course, the throat, the stabbing of the throat, the slicing of the throat, also slicing of the wrists, and be very careful of that. One that you probably do not know about is when the blade flashes between your perineum. So your perineum is that space between your genital and your anus. Sorry to say that, but when the blade cuts that lets that little barrier that keeps all the organs in out. So do not let anyone get behind you and pull that blade back, or even get behind you and pull it near your hamstring or behind your knees. Specifically, do not let them get near your ankles, because once they cut the tendon behind that, it's over. You can't walk. I do teach this to my students in the event that after they disarm a rapist. So I have no remorse for rapists. That's the truth. So a rapist is a person who puts you in that position. He has a knife. Take the knife, incapacitate them for a good. You cut the tendon, you stab the leg, and you get out. That's usually what I teach them, because we need to be able to make sure that they're safely out of there. At the same time, the rapist won't even think about it twice anymore. He just wants to leave and heal, and then you can tell the cops that there's this guy, he's limping, he tried to rape me, I stabbed him in there. You can check on his weapon. I think I have my prints over there, but you'll see that his prints are there, blah, blah, blah. Going back to the weapon, when you are facing these type of slashes, do your best to get away from them, but do not get away from them in such a way that it puts you in jeopardy. So one of those ways is like this. Do not build that space up, okay? When somebody sees you coming and he goes like this and you move and you build that space up, you've built that space up for a reverse. You've built that space up for him to step right in and just jab it into your body. That's not what you want him to do. What you want him to do is redirect into a 45. So if somebody's stabbing you this way, one thing that the military used to do was they used to do this X guard, where they grab it and they move it to the side over there or over here, and that's a safe move. Another one is Jim Wagner's combatives. He taught civilians the SWAT team way of just handling it if they weren't trained. If a knife's coming in, move it to your side towards your hip, grab that elbow and drive them down, and just try and get them away from you. As long as the weapon hand's isolated, nothing can happen. In other styles, say Filipino Kali, if a knife is coming in this way, what they want to do is bat the elbow. They call it checking. They check and then they hold the weapon hand. So it's check, hold the weapon hand, and then they go in and they disarm. or they go in with their own knife, or they go in and they hit the guy, which is more of a combative way of fighting. For me, I like to disarm right on the go, because if I can get it out of his hand quickly, I can finish this fight pretty fast. So if somebody's stabbing me this way, usually what I do is I just throw my hand on the weapon hand. I didn't think twice. So if I do, I step back, and that creates that long line space, and I grab it. I grab the hand, and I open up the thumb. So when I open up the thumb, all I got to do is scrape my hand off on the flat of the blade, and if his hand's this way and I pull that thumb out, that just flicks right off, and then I could just step on that weapon hand and just work on him as much as possible. There's many ways to disarm, and this isn't the type of video for that. What I'm going to show you instead is how to use this knife in a more, you can say, simpler manner, by remembering the steps that I did with the stick. So the stick, as I told you, to make that simple movement. You can do that with the knife, only now it's more like a sniper aiming. So you're over here and you just sniper, and then just pam, 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 pam. You can aim with it now much better. Avoid slashing unless you're deciding to slash with your whole body across and through, so that you can move your hand into a better maneuver. Because if you just slash this way, the minute they have that weapon hand, they've got this whole side isolated. They got this face here. The only thing you can do is this, and there's just so much fingers can do against somebody really knocking you in. So when you slash, make sure that you slash and you bring the weapon itself closer, and your the most motion you want to do from the elbow is this open and close type of motion. See? Open, close, open, close. 2, do not make this mistake and do this with your hand. Your hand is not positioned or trained to do this right, because once somebody grabs your weapon here or grabs your hand and they twist that, you're already in a locked position. In Aikido, they usually do this with the hand, and it's called kotegaeshi, and it goes that way, and that's it. Your whole body follows, because it's going to break. So do not put your position here. If you're going to hit this way, keep the angle slightly aimed towards them. That way, even if they try and move it, you can still kind of poke and slash away, and you can move in and you start working properly. So this motion here, in Filipino martial arts, is called the sinawali. What I'm doing here is not a sinawali. This is more of something that I've trained in a different way. And then 2, when you're cutting, remember there's different types of motions. A forward motion, a back motion, there's a side-to-side motion, side-to-side motion. You stab and you flick. So there's flicking motions where you put the blade just close enough to something, and then you flick it right off. You just tap. There's also points where you, like I do with this stick, I grab and then I work this way and I can cut through. I work this way and I push it out the way, and then I can hold it and I can cut, or I can disarm. So when you're working with blades, be very careful. Do what I do. Get yourself whatever fake blades that don't hurt you yet. Practice on them. Practice not by how light they are, but by how they work in structure. Practice your hands, make it a loose motion, and try to move your body smoothly. And do not stay isolated this way. You should be able to easily move around this way, this way. I can even do it when I'm cross-legged this way, because I can simply just move my leg this way, and just feel yourself free up. But as much as possible, remember that you have to educate yourself when you're doing these things, so you can be a much better martial artist. And who knows, if you are instructors out there, you can save a few lives by giving some of these pointers the way I am right now. So that's all I can say for now for this. And before I go, I just want to say, remember, my name is Instructor Misha. Protect yourself by educating yourself. Peace.